Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Welcome to today's video. Today's video is going to be my first update in my No Pan Left Behind project. So that is a project where I'm trying to use every single pan in every single eyeshadow palette that I have in my collection. It is quite the challenge. It's the first month that I've tried doing this challenge and I have some thoughts. I've learned a lot, but I'm going to go over all the palettes that I successfully No Pan left behind, some palettes that I'm in progress of, show some looks that I did, talk about the palettes, all that good stuff. So if that sounds good to you, make sure you give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't yet. I would love it if you stuck around, but with all that, let's just get started. All right, like I said, this is my first time trying this project. I knew it was going to be tough. I have 246 palettes last time I checked, and that is not including all the palettes that came into my collection for December and January. I have not put those in my inventory spreadsheet yet, so those numbers will be going up. My empties video, I believe, is going to be coming up next week, my empties and purchases. So stay tuned for that one. You can see all the new things that I hauled. It will be my biggest haul video in the past year. Anyways, these palettes. I've been trying really hard to No Pan left behind as many as I can to really get a jump start on this. I've been taking pictures of my looks, which have been really, really fun. So I'm going to go over all those looks while I talk about the palettes. And let's just start. I successfully No Pan left behind 8 palettes in my collection. I'm very surprised by that number. I actually thought that it was going to be less, like around 5. But it's still not enough to get through all my palettes this year. I think I divided it up and I would have to do 21 palettes a month in order to successfully do every single eyeshadow palette in my collection. It's not going to happen, but we're going to see how far I can get. The first palette that I did No Pan left behind, and I don't have a photo for this one because it was the first one before I decided I kind of wanted to track my looks, is the YSL Quad in 100 Stora Dolls. So this palette looks like this. You're starting to get some like good wear and tear, some love on this palette. Like I can see that I actually use this palette and it doesn't go neglected in my collection. This was a very simple look. I'm trying to be a little bit strategic and pull in some quads and not just big palettes to knock out some easy ones. So this was just one look that I did one day using, I think I used kind of like this all over the lid, this as a topper, this as an inner corner, and this is liner. Simple look, but it's a reliable look, and I love this palette so much. This is a luxury purchase that I definitely recommend. Then the next palette that I worked on, I wanted it to be a palette that I had recently gotten, not let this palette just sit in the drawers collecting dust, but actually get to use it while it was new. It is the Makeup by Mario Ethereal Eyes Moonlight palette. I did end up picking this up. You'll see it in my haul video, but I successfully No Pan left behind this palette. I love this palette. I kind of shit on it. I feel bad. I tried to dupe this palette, and I do think my dupe got pretty close. I don't necessarily think you need this palette, but I will say, for it being my first Makeup by Mario palette, the formula is exceptional. It is really, really nice. You do have to like more toppery shades. These shimmers don't have that much of a base to them. So if you like a really thick, opaque, metallic or sparkle shade, this won't be the palette for you, but the mattes are really, really nice. I swatched this in store and it's what convinced me to purchase it. If I hadn't seen it in store, I don't think I would have picked it up, but it did sway me just a little bit. But I did a few looks with this palette. I only am showing looks where I solely use the palette because there are some times where I had 1 or 2 shades left and I combined it with some other things. But the photos I took, I wanted them to be solely of the palette. And you'll probably notice, just throwing it out there, I'm really trying to improve the quality of my photo taking skills. So it's gonna start small, but we're gonna hopefully by the end of the year get there and me understanding how cameras work. But the first look, I believe, I used more of like these taupey shades here. Actually, no, I did not use this one. I used this shade, this shade, this shade, and then this shimmer here. So that was the first look that I did. The second look that's where I used this topper here. So I used this shade, probably this one, and then this one. There's some that I used more than once if I was trying to just no pan left behind it, which I know probably is going to slow down my progress, but that's how I want to do it. I also want to just get to know my palettes more. And for me, that's using the palette as a palette and not reaching into another shade for a dark brown just because I want to no pan left behind as many dark browns as possible and get moving. So that's how I'm going to do it. And I'm fully aware it's going to slow me down. And then the third look that I did solely with this palette, I believe I wore that look in a video, was with this shade, this one, and then I did this on the inner corner. It was actually my least favorite look that I did. I do like this white shimmer here, this white sparkly kind of toppery shade. I just didn't love the contrast with the super dark shade to the really light white bright shade. I much preferred it when it was kind of tied into these, but I'm very happy with the formula. I definitely used the blue in one of these looks, so I'm not sure which one it was. I'm trying to remember. I just like took a picture of the look with the palette so I would remember which palette, but I didn't necessarily cross off the shades. So this palette was successfully no pan left behind, and it's going to go in my drawer. Then the third palette that I did was another new to me palette, the Huda Beauty Icy Nude. I did, I think, like a short with this palette, but that was before I started tracking, so that did not count towards my no pan left behind. I also really love this palette. It's funny how once I use a no pan left behind, my opinions drastically change. Like, I really enjoyed this palette after using it no pan left behind. So let's see, the looks that I did with this one, I did obviously like more of a pinky look with this one. I remember that was the first shade that I used. I think along with this, or maybe this matte, I'm not sure, but you'll see the look on the screen. One of my favorite looks that I did was not a look I expected to get out of this palette. It was using this L here. I created this really pretty golden look. It was much more warm tone than I thought I could get out of this palette, but it's one of the looks that really made me fall in love with this palette even more, because I realized how versatile it is. When I saw the promo pics of this palette, I almost didn't pick it up because a lot of the looks that Huda did for her promotion were very icy. It was very much using this avalanche shade here, which for me, I didn't love. I get that it was trying to follow a theme, but I think this palette can do so much more than just those icy kind of pastel wintry shades that are known for winter. It can do a lot. It actually might be my favorite Huda Beauty palette. Rose Quartz was winning, but this is like just a nice mix between Pretty Grunge and Rose Quartz, in my opinion. And then the third look was also just kind of like a very easy, simple day look. I'm not remembering which shimmers I used, but I think I was using this one here. All I know is after I did the 3 looks with this palette, the only shades that I had left were the shimmer or the silvers, this one, and this one after the 3 looks. And I had a little bit of difficulties incorporating those shades into other looks, so I ended up pairing them with other things, which is why I don't have a photo of them. My least favorite shade for sure that I just wanted to point out is Bling. It's like very gritty. It's a pure glitter. I'm assuming that it's a pressed glitter. I don't know, but it's very gritty. It feels like sandpaper. It doesn't have much glide to it, and like that's what it's supposed to do, but the fallout on this is just obviously insane because of it. And then the shade that surprised me the most was actually Platinum. I didn't think I was going to love that shade. This was the shade that actually brought made me like complete No Pan Left Behind was this one, was my last shade to use. And it's a really pretty silver. I layered it on top of some like really pretty taupes. I think I layered it on top of the Charlotte Tilbury Eyes to Mesmerize in Oyster Pearl, and it turned into just a really soft, subtle silver. I'm not super into silvers as much as a lot of people are. I'm definitely more of like a gold jewelry wearer. Like you can see my ring is gold. So that's why silvers intimidate me a little bit, but I was actually very surprised by platinum, and it ended up being one of my favorite shimmers. So that was the whatever palette we're on. Must have been the third because I still have 5 left. So after that, I No Pan Left Behind my Natasha Denona Face Glam palette. I did include this because I pulled it into Shop My Stash, and I was using this palette mostly for these. So I just decided to count this as part of my No Pan Left Behind. I used every single shade. I actually used it in one of my videos, my Get Ready With Me, talking about just like some life updates, some not happy ones, but I'll link that video up above if you're curious. I did not take a photo with this palette, but you can see my look with it. Very simple, like transition, crease, smoke, outer corner, inner corner. I basically just followed the guideline there. That's what I did, and got that one checked off. Then I decided I needed to work on some smaller palettes to kind of just get the ball rolling, hopefully increase my numbers a little bit. And I'm going to have to No Pan Left Behind them anyways. Like, let's try to get a few easy palettes just knocked out, right? So the next one that I decided to No Pan Left Behind is this little Melt Petite Stack. One of my favorite palettes in my collection. It's super versatile. It comes in handy so many times. I actually used this in my video when I did a first impression of the Lisa Eldridge Pinpoint Concealer. I did it like a minimalist makeup look where I used this as eyeshadow, bronzer, and brows. So it has a cream, then it has a shimmer, a kind of like neutrally mid-tone brown, an even darker brown, and then an ultra dark matte brown. Love this. I love how compact it is. So I only did one look with this, exactly how you would think. Like I used this in the crease. I used this to blend it out. I used the shimmer on the lid. I used this to darken up the outer corner, and then I used this as liner. You'll see my picture. So I actually used this technically twice because I used it in my Lisa Eldridge video, as well as just doing a look. In that Lisa Eldridge video, I didn't use all the shades, so I figured if I was going to No Pan Left Behind it, I would use all 5 of these in one look again. It was no big deal to me. So this one is officially done as well. Next, I did this palette. This is the NARS little Orgasm Quad. What happened was, as I had filmed my Would I Repurchase series for January. I do that every single month where I pull 10 palettes from my collection, talk about if I would repurchase them or not. I'll link that video up above as well if you want to watch it. But this got pulled into that, and I was like, well, while I have it out of my drawers, I might as well No Pan Left Behind it. Here's what it looks like, and my thoughts say the same. Honestly, this palette's on the chopping block. It has 1 matte, 3 shimmers. I did use it all in one look. I maybe could have split it into 2 looks, but for the purpose of No Pan Left Behind, I just knocked out one look with this palette. It was pretty. I didn't hate the look. Like I used this all over the lid. I used this in the inner corner, and then I used this on most of my lid, and this is kind of like a topper shade. This is like the super sparkly shade out of the palette. It's nice. It's not bad quality, but I definitely have this palette in other palettes, like the Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk. It looks very similar to this. Another one that I'm going to talk about that I'm actually wearing on my eyes today is also similar to this, and I feel like it's better quality. So I'm like 90% sure that I'm going to declutter this palette, but I'm going to wait. Instead of decluttering on the spot like I did in 2024, 2025, I think I'm going to give a little bit more thought and do like more of a big declutter. Next, one of my favorite looks this month was with my Pat McGrath. This is the Voyeuristic Vixen Quad. Even my husband complimented me on this look, which he doesn't do often. He definitely likes like more minimal makeup, which is too bad for him. So this is what this palette looks like. Also talked about this in my would I repurchase. So I, again, just pulled it out, got it used up. I used this shade all over the lid, really blended out, sheared out. I used this in the inner corner. I kind of used this as a base, and then I topped it with this really, really pretty duochrome. It is stunning. It just gave like neutral, it gave like spicy neutral, pink spicy neutral. I loved it so, so much. It was a really pretty look. It gave a lot of dimension to it. And I think I said in that video I would not repurchase this palette, but after using it that one time, I think I definitely would. That's how much I really enjoyed the look. So I'm glad that I got some use out of some Pat McGrath palettes because they definitely go neglected in my collection. Then the last one that I have that I successfully completed, No Pan Left Behind, is the one that I'm wearing today. I figured I might as well knock out another palette today. And it's similar to the NARS Orgasm Quad, which is why I said that I would probably declutter it because this one is so much better. It's the Surat, the Beautylish palette. Also talked about this in my would I repurchase, but like I said, I had those palettes out in a pile for the video, and instead of putting them away, I put them on my makeup desk, got them out, and now I can put them away knowing that they're finished. So this is the palette that I'm wearing today. It's very pretty. It's a very expensive palette. Like I would not purchase this palette today, but I will say using it today, it is a very nice formula. You can tell it's a very sophisticated formula. There's some luxury palettes for the price point. Like you couldn't tell the difference that this is a $60 palette versus a $20 palette. I can see where the price comes into this palette. Do I still think it's like ridiculously expensive? I think this palette's like $99 or something like that. Like, yes, I do. But I will say, like, it is an exceptional formula, and I can see why a lot of people love Surat shadows. So this one will definitely stay. I enjoyed the look. I'll throw up a look of me right now just as a photo, but it's pretty, it's neutral, kind of like the Pat McGrath more, like it just gives more oomph. But for certain things, like this one's nice. So those are the 8 palettes that I successfully completed, No Pan Left Behind style. Like I said, I have 246 palettes in my collection so far that I counted. That number will fluctuate, but that puts me at 3.2% of my collection. I'm excited to see like that percentage go up, hopefully not go down, because if it goes down, that means I'm purchasing more palettes than I can No Pan Left Behind. But right now I'm at 3.2%. I am hoping that that starts to pick up because I do have some palettes I want to go over that I'm 25% halfway through No Pan Left Behind on them. So we're going to go over those as well. But as like the months progress and I get more rollover palettes, I'm hoping that percentage goes up. My goal, I think, for the end of February, it is a shorter month. I think I would be happy if I hit 8% because that would be 4.7% I would need to do, 4.8% I would need to do in order to hit that. So it's a little bit more than I did this month, but not too much more. So let's just see if I can hit that 8% goal. But now let's talk about the palettes that I'm halfway through No Pan Left Behinding. Is that the word? I'm not going to show my looks for these. I'm going to wait till I'm completely finished and then go over my looks. But the first one that I have is the Mika Beauty Shop Serpent Palette. I pulled this into my deck of panning, so I need to use this palette 3 times. And I figured while I'm doing that, I will hopefully No Pan Left Behind it. I don't know if I'll do that in 3 looks, but maybe 4 or 5. Here's what this palette looks like. So Mika Beauty Shop is a French indie brand. I really love her formula, and I was only reminded how much I loved it when I used this. Like I said, I've only used it 1 time. So the shades that I've used is this one, which is so beautiful. I used Fertility, I used Apopis, and then I used Immortality. So still a long way to go with this palette. I've only used 25%, right? Ish. I'll definitely be doing like a very neon yellow look, a green look, I don't know how I'm going to incorporate that orange, but I'll figure it out as we go. But this does have one look on it. It has about 25% of the palette. So have a head start on this, and we'll see how long it takes me to finish. And then the second palette that I'm working on is the Cosmic Beauty Winter Wonderland. Pull this into the would I repurchase. It just was easy for me. That's what this comes down to. And decided like if I wasn't going to use this now, probably I was going to miss my opportunity to use this palette. And it is one that's kind of also on my chopping block. So I wanted to get some use out of this palette. I really loved the look that I did. It was bright. It was bold. I wore that look in my new makeup release video, my Will I Buy It? I think I had that look on. I used the shades. I pretty much used this entire top row here. And then I used also Snowfall to blend out a little bit. So I did like a very purple periwinkle look. Very much enjoyed it. I thought it was really, really fun. And that puts me at about 25% of this palette as well. So I can probably finish this palette in another 3 looks or so. And I'm hoping to do that by the end of February. If not, this is going to like sit in my progress pile for a long time because I won't want to reach for these tones. And I really want to see if this is a palette I should keep in my collection or not. Because while the formula is fantastic, love it, like no complaints about Cosmic brushes whatsoever, I don't know if this color story is something that I would get my use out of. But we're getting there because like I said, I did really enjoy that look. Anyways, those are all the palettes that I finished or I'm in progress of finishing. Are you doing this challenge or are you doing a different kind of challenge? Like maybe you're doing Pan That Palette where you focus on one palette for the entire year instead of this. For me personally, I'm just trying to get to know my makeup collection a little bit more. So I didn't want to focus on one palette, but maybe next year we'll see. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. It's only February, so let's not get ahead of ourselves. But this is where I'm going to leave you all. I hope you're having a great one. Please give me feedback on my photos because I'm really trying to improve them. I'm trying to improve my camera quality overall, the audio, everything. So that's kind of my goal for the first half of this year. But so if you have tips, let me know. But this is where I'm going to leave you all. I hope you're having a great one, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, everyone.